Todd, you and I were talking. We were all talking before we started going on live here because this is really crucial. Something that's going on in your personal life, and it involves your time as being a veteran, serviceman and stuff like that. So I'd like to get this out here because I think it's, God knows how many people out there who are, you both are veterans. So, I mean, this could probably impact or possibly impact millions of people. So let's go into it. Let's go be brief, and you just, explain as best you can. And when I jump in, I can ask some questions to maybe clarify it. Okay.
So this morning I got a letter from the government saying that they're taking back $3,000 or so from my, because every month I get a disability check,
Right.
right? And they're going to take $3,000 out of the next few months, or 1 month altogether. They're wiping everybody else. That's their proposal, and then anything extra they'll just take off from after that. But here's the one part about it is because they're quoting a law back was printed in 1980,
Okay.
and it was the 10 USC 1174. It was introduced by a senator, a Republican senator, right? His name is John Tower,
Okay,
right?
I remember
In
the name.
1989, was put up to be the head of the by George Bush. Was put in to be one of the cabinet members, but couldn't make it because it was a womanizing and his drunkenness,
Okay.
right? Anyways, here's the thing. He put a letter thing. So let's talk about separation. So basically, what the law was supposed to be was double dipping.
Against double
What does
dipping.
double dipping mean?
Double dipping means that we couldn't get money. You can't get money from the government, Department of Defense, and you can't get money from the Veterans Association at the same time.
Okay.
So when you get out of the military, you cannot get any money that you've got paid by the Department of Defense or underneath the military. You could not get your VA payment until that was paid up,
Okay.
right? So I got out, in the military back in 1994. Not one time I ever heard anything that this has gone through. And I didn't even apply for my VA stuff for at least 3 or 4 months to maybe 6 months after that. There was no double dipping. I wasn't getting paid at the same time, right?
Right.
So what
So
the
what the-
Army or the Department of Defense is trying to say that you took $3,000 at the same time that you were drawing VA benefits.
Right, which was never happening. At that time, they wouldn't let you happen anyways, and you can't do it because you have to turn all your paperwork into the VA and all the different things, right? Your last earning statements, everything like that. You have to turn this stuff in the military, right? When you go to right into the VA to get your benefits, so they can see, and then they register everything from that point forward. So there was no way of you could really seriously double dip. I guess you could if you knew how to, but nobody did because I went through our Disabled American Veterans Society to get mine done. They worked everything legitimately. So this happened. So today I'm sitting there getting through my mail on December 27th. This is Biden's great FU to all the veterans across the country. So what he's doing now is taking every veteran that has ever been medically discharged, because I talked to some of the people when I start calling in and find out what's going on, people are getting phone calls. The reason why is because now we have to go back and prove this is 30 years ago, John. I got out of the military in 1994. December 27th, 2024, I get a letter sent out because of the Department of Defense, but they can't even tell me in the letter where it came from. So we had to go do some research on it and found out that it came from the Department of Defense. It came out from Mr. Austin, who just decides to take off on trips and forgets to tell everybody where he's at. And this pisses me the hell off.
But the thing back then, because I was in the military back then, it would have been a hard check. It wouldn't have been a direct deposit. So there had to be a check that was sent to an address, and you got it. But you got to explain to people, if you would have had a check at the pay grade that you were in, that was almost 2 months' pay.
That was
and
actually
you would
3 months'
remember
pay.
that.
Yeah, that was 3 months' pay. I would remember it if I got a 3-month paycheck,
Right.
and I didn't get one. And I've looked at everything in the whole spot because I was a geek back then. I kept all my discharge and all that information. None of that's in there. And yes, it would have been
You would have been a big payday for
So
you.
they have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a $3,000 check after. Think about this. At this time in our military career, being an E4 at that time, we had made $12,000 a year, $12,000 to $15,000.
Right.
$13,000 a year.
That's a good chunk. Yeah.
That would have been 3 times my pay up for 1 month. I think I would have known that I got that check.
And like Steve was pointing out, it had been a hard check, like a written check sent out to
Yeah.
or a printed check rather. So I mean, and they definitely they'd had accountability, a paper trail, a literal paper trail.
Right.
So why
With
did
my signature on it?
right? So yeah, you cash in a bank or deposit in
Right.
your bank account or whatever.
Which
So-
they can't provide.
So they can't provide, or the banks can't do that or anything, right? Or-
No. I mean, I can guarantee the government can't provide it.
Right.
It was just rolled a check out to anybody that could, this letter's run out to everybody. So this is 30 years ago. Even the IRS goes 7 years and they don't kind of do it.
Right.
30 freaking years. And you just want to walk it out the door and say to any veteran, let's do this. This is where I'm getting pissed off at all these politicians. Yes, Lindsey Graham, suspenders, every one of them.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. This came from the Republican Party.
Right.
This didn't come from the Democratic Party. So you can't, the most time I call strikes and balls on the Democrats. This one is freaking from the
If somebody
Republican
gets
Party.
a letter like this, what do you suggest first thing they should do?
First thing you do, there's a phone number on that letter in the back and says call it. Call that number and they're going to give you the second. Second thing you need to do is call your congressman. And the third thing you need is fill out that form, get it down. If you're in Michigan, get it down to Detroit and turn it in.
I would recommend going to the Disabled Veterans of America. And that's where I went to handle all my paperwork. And they're all over the place. And they have an officer there. They can probably help you get it to the person faster because they can fax things and email things where you can't.
I might head over there tomorrow before I head down to Detroit because I'm actually going to go to Detroit. I'm going to do there and to Detroit. And the reason why is I want to go down and see these guys face to face. And I want somebody to prove to me with a hard letter check. If they can send this letter out like this, then they had better at that same time be able to hand me a hard signed check by myself. If not, then what can you do after them?
Right.
What are other legal issues can you take after them? Because that means what they're doing is they're saying this. There's what they're saying to everybody across the country. There's multiple people, and we're going to talk about one of the person that said something about them, and that got me pissed off even before this letter came in. But here's the thing: don't screw with the freaking veterans.
No.
And for freaking 30 years, you know what? You haven't done anything in 30 years. Don't do it. That means that anybody, if you're following this law, you're saying that anybody that ever signed a severance package in any company, right, can actually virtually, if you're following the dumbasses in Congress, you're saying that anyone signed you're in trouble because that company could come back and say, hey, you know what? We gave you a severance package to leave, but guess what? We're not going to take it. That we want that money back.
That's definitely a possibility.
But like he said, there is absolutely no way. You would have to be on leave because going to the VA to start the process to get you to go for your service connected disabilities. It's a process that it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year. Back then,
right?
Yeah, it was at least that long,
right?
And there's no way that you could have been, even if you were on leave or terminal leave, as we called it, you would have to be on terminal leave you couldn't have had that much leave.
Year. Yeah.
You couldn't have had 12 months of leave.
I only had 3 weeks leave.
You can only have 90 days is the max you can, there's 120. I don't remember.
I think back then it was 90.
I don't,
I
but
it's 30 years
whatever
ago,
it was, there's no way that you could have been on leave long enough to get your disability.
I had 2 weeks leave.
Yeah, so there was no way that you could have been you weren't. But anyways.
So this is what we really needed. These are, okay. So people, all right, I'm going to go off a little bit from one spot. Steve does a lot every day we do a show. He does a lot behind the scenes and pulls up the stuff. And then he does a lot in the back. You do a lot when it comes to, running the show, making sure everything's like that. And I show up and basically, I don't know, provide comedy hour.
You're the eye candy.
They're when our candy's right out the door. Here's the thing, is that I usually kind of get along to go along with people and stuff like that. This one, I don't. I'm sorry. Any congressperson in the freaking world, because this has been amended now 4 times.
Right.
4 times this thing has been amended. Not one time has Republican Party or the Democratic Party ever came back and said, you know what, let's wipe this thing out because of what happened back this time. We shouldn't go after this. Why would you put on section 10 in section 1174, add this to it? So the guy dies in a car, in a plane crash. And I was telling this to a friend of mine coming over, and I was telling this to Julie, not a friend, I was just telling this to Julie on the way over because we were talking about this. He died in a plane crash, and I'm praying to God that the thing was burned up in crystal. You actually figured out what it felt like to go to hell when you got there. Because honest to God, true, some dumbass that would actually write this, and I don't care if somebody comes back and says he's a prominent senator. Bullshit. He was the one who fucked over all the veterans.
But the worst part about it, you were just a dumb kid back then. You're not like a the learned scholar that you are today.
I was 26 years old.
So you
They
didn't
had me
know.
sign a damn sheet of paper so that this is
Right.
what you got for a medical board, right? The medical board said that you're going to go off with whatever you got on leave. That's what it is. They established clearly. I was the type of kid that honestly, I didn't have much more than 2 weeks on leave at most side. If I had time on leave, I was gone somewhere. I enjoyed I used to take my extended weekends, right? That's how I did it. Came home once a year. That was it. This is bull crap. What they're doing to veterans, when they do this to one veteran, they do it to all veterans. They do this if you think about this, they're doing it to us, which is fine. Not fine because I'm not happy about it. But here's the other side to it. I'm not. This is not a drop in the bucket for me. This is a whole freaking. I just
set you back behind an 8 ball for a considerable period of time.
I
mean, it's going to be hard for you to regain that. I mean, you $3,000 taken with one check, boom, it's gone, taken from you. Okay, now you got all these other bills stacked up. You pay your normal bills. Now you got to find a way of covering them, which means you might have to get a loan or take some, or put it on a credit card, and means you get credit card interest attached
and
to
it's
it.
30 freaking years.